Would you like to 10x your productivity and stop feeling so overworked and overwhelmed? Welcome to the Extreme Productivity Podcast with New York Times bestselling author and Inc. 500 entrepreneur, Kevin Kruse.
Hey, welcome to the show. And if you could see me, you would see that I am smiling ear to ear. I just got an email. Now, I'm not even going to humble brag this. I'm just going to put it out there. I just found out the Shanghai Daily newspaper, which is the largest English language newspaper, certainly in Shanghai, I think in all of China, they just named my book to their list of the top 5 business books to read. It's ranked number 2. So, hey, if it's good enough for Shanghai, China, I think it's good enough for the rest of the world. That's my biased opinion. So if you don't already have a copy, go grab 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management. It brought back good memories. I was in Shanghai, I guess it was about 8 years ago for maybe a week, and had a great time. And in fact, I had drinks in what, at least at that time, was the world's tallest bar. So not the tallest building, but the top floor of the bar. It's, I guess, the tallest bar in the world. I think it's the Hyatt or the Hilton. I can't remember. Maybe someone can tell me which one it is. But anyway, that was my good news I needed to share for the day. Hope you are also getting great news. In the last episode, I gave you the details of my crazy cryotherapy experiment. And in this episode, I'm going to share 7 ways to say no. But first, if you want to get a ready-to-print 1440 sign and 1440 wallet-size cards, remember, there's only 1,440 minutes in a day. I'm wearing a 1440 t-shirt right now. If you want to get your own sign ready to print, just text the word ACHIEVE to 44222 or head on over to the website productivity-podcast.com, productivity-podcast.com. And you can download a PDF and get that sign and a bunch of other goodies as well. So here's a quote from Warren Buffett. The difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything. And that's what I heard over and over again when I interviewed those 7 billionaires and the straight A students and over 200 successful entrepreneurs. They say no to almost everything. Now, if you're listening and you're a consultant or an author or a coach, or you're just highly successful in your field, you probably are bombarded, as I am, with emails and LinkedIn messages from people, either complete strangers or they're like friends of a friend, people who want to talk to you. They say, hey, just in the spirit of networking, can we grab a cup of coffee? Or I'm thinking about starting a business. Can I pick your brain? And, they want to jump on the phone, or usually they want to meet in person over a cup of coffee. And you just can't say yes to everybody. I mean, I help a lot of people. I do answer every single email I get. Takes me an hour or 2 a day to do it. But, just doing all these in-person requests, I could never do it. I wouldn't be able to get anything else done. So how do you say no to these kinds of requests to these people without, getting them mad or you seeming like you're a jerk or, just too good for them or something? Well, here's how I do it. And let me start by saying that, I do believe that no is enough. You don't owe it to anyone to have to say more than that. But there are times, when I think almost all of us struggle with refusing the request. It could be from, sort of a loose connection or a casual friend or a friend of a friend. And it's just hard to say no, period. So I personally, answer all the emails each day with short answers. But with these cup of coffee meetings, I'll send an email response. And depending on who they are, the circumstance, I use one of like 7 different responses. So maybe one of these or 2 of these will resonate with you and you can use it. I always say, hey, thanks for reaching out. And then one option I'll say, I'm on deadline right now, so I'm not taking any new meetings until I'm done. Now, I often use this approach with total strangers who are just cold contacting me. I don't specify what the deadline is. They don't need to know that. And I always am on a deadline, either an article deadline, a book deadline, a project deadline, a deadline to prepare for the next phone call. So it's true. And the word deadline has some magic to it. I mean, I think people just think, oh, a deadline. Okay, I understand that. And they go away. And usually these people, never respond, never try to get back on the calendar. Another thing I'll do, I'll say, hey, thanks for reaching out. Unfortunately, my schedule's so packed at this time, I can only take calls and meetings with paying clients. Thanks for understanding. Now, I use this answer, paying clients, for the people who are reaching out for free advice that's going to benefit them and their company tremendously, but they just expect me to give it for free. And a lot of these people, I mean, I don't do this if it's a young student or someone asking for advice. But, I've got, six-figure executives who want me to spend half a day with them for free to teach them how to write a book. That I can get money for those services. I routinely get six-figure C-level executives wanting me to spend an hour on the phone with them for free to teach them about employee engagement and how they can improve their employee engagement scores. Well, I actually have a keynote speech that answers that question, and they can hire me to come in and do that speech. So, for people who are just kind of, I think, either clueless or rude in these requests, I just say, hey, I'm packed, so I can only take meetings with my paying clients, hint, hint. And again, usually those people go away. Third idea, I'll say, hey, thanks for reaching out. I'm happy to connect, but there's just no daylight on my calendar until 2:15 p.m. Eastern time on, and then I'll pick a day that's like 5 months from now. And with it being such a specific date and time, it sends them the message that my calendar really is packed. I went and looked. I'm not saying no, I'm saying okay, but this is the next open slot. And it's like 5 months from now, or 4 or 6, whatever it is. And I usually say this to someone who I don't know personally, but like they're a friend of a friend, or somebody that used to work for me, 20 years ago. And I barely, I haven't kept in touch. And again, I don't want to reject them outright. I just want to send them a signal that, listen, I'm really busy. I'm running and gunning. So if this is important, great. Let's book that meeting and we'll just wait. And then I'm happy to meet. Almost always they just say, oh, I had no idea you were busy. Okay, don't worry about it. Why they think other people aren't busy? I guess they're not busy. But this is what I do with distant connections. Fourth, sometimes I'll say, hey, thanks for reaching out. My next open time slot for a phone call is 2 a.m. to 2:15 a.m. Eastern time next Thursday. Let me know if that works. Now notice the time slot is a.m., not p.m. It's in the middle of the night. Now I only use this line, a couple times a year, because if the person calls my bluff, I do actually have to stay up late or get out of bed and take the call. But I use this line when people are really, really persistent. Like sometimes I will get a salesperson. And again, if they're just complete random salesperson, I just don't respond. But sometimes it's, a friend of a relative, a friend of a friend, etc. But I know they're trying to sell me something I don't need. I'm trying not to be rude. And I also do it even if they're not selling something, they want my advice. That's fine. And because they're a friend of a friend, I'll give it to them. But how badly do they want it? So usually they respond and say, oh yeah, next Thursday works great, but you had a typo and wrote AM. Boy, that would sure be crazy. And I respond back, no typo. I'm a 24/7 kind of guy. And if you want to talk, I can talk at 2 a.m. Do you want it? And in all the years that I've done this, I've been doing this for like 20 years. No one has ever said, yes, I'll take that time slot. I've had people write in and say, hey, Kevin, you're a New York Times bestselling author and I want to become one too. Can you talk to me, for half an hour and give me your secrets? I've had people say, hey, listen, you've built and sold several multi-million-dollar businesses. I want to become a multimillionaire too. Can you hop on the phone and give me advice on how to do that? So they want to become a best-selling author. They want to become a multimillionaire, but they're not willing to do a phone call at 2 a.m. So every time I offer 2 a.m., they say, oh, it's not that important, or, oh, no, I'm not, I'll be sleeping at that time. And they go away. That's fine. But it flushes them out. It puts it back on them. Let's see, a fifth way. I'll email, hey, thanks for reaching out. I don't think I'm the best person. I'd like to refer you to, whoever the name is. So this is an easy one. A lot of times people are reaching out to you because they don't know who else in your organization or on your team they should do that. I used to see my old boss, Rudy Carson. He was the CEO of the company. So people would start with him for all kinds of things. And then he would say, oh, you're, calling about office supplies. Well, I'm the wrong person. I've totally delegated our office supplies decision to our CFO, Don. Here's his information. Now, it was Don's problem then to get rid of the person or to take the call to save on office supplies. But the idea is if you have someone else in your organization, an assistant even, you could just bounce the person to them. And let's see, another idea. I'm not able to take any more meetings or calls during normal business hours, but I often catch up on emails during travel or at night. Would you like to communicate via email? Now, this is probably the response I use most often because I'm traveling for speeches or workshops, probably once a week. I take a lot of vacations and I'm out of the country or traveling somewhere. So I am on the road a lot. And it is true. Like I can really catch up on emails. I'm much more efficient with emails when I'm on the road. So, again, people like to get access live for some reason. It's just not efficient. And I think email, if they want to take the time to ask me specific questions, I don't mind taking the time to give them specific answers. And then the last idea is, I'll say, hey, thanks for reaching out. As a rule, I only schedule 15 minutes for first calls. If you're interested, please send over a draft agenda so I can see what we'll be covering and what desired outcome you're hoping for. So this is someone who, again, usually, it's someone who's very persistent or a contact of some type that I don't just want to say no to. And I'm saying, look, yes, we can do that phone call, but what are we going to talk about and what's the desired outcome? And again, almost always these people go away. They're willing to waste hours of your time over a cup of coffee, but they won't take the time to put down 3 bullet points and the goal of the meeting. And if they send it to me, great, then I'll know exactly. We'll have a good productive 15 minutes, or it might be a question I can answer again via email. So what's the takeaway for you on all this stuff on how I handle, I get several a day. Well, if you're also bombarded, have at it, use some of these ideas as a way to manage these people. But even if you don't get hit up by all these meeting requests, the same principles apply. You probably get things like, hey, Susan, I want to tell you about this new candle business I'm doing. Maybe you could throw a candle party with me. Let's get together over a cup of coffee and talk about it. Or, hey, Phil, I'm gathering the neighbors to talk about whether we should plant wildflowers in the common area of our neighborhood. When can you meet? Or, hey, it's been 20 years since college. Let's get together and grab a drink and catch up. And, hey, if you want to do any of those things, great. But remember, every yes is a no to something else. I'm not saying never say yes. I'm not saying become a hermit. I'm saying every yes by default is actually saying a no to spending time with someone else or on something else, on your goals, on your MIT. So be mindful of your minutes. It's just saying no, period, that is enough. But if you want to soften the blow a little bit, if you want to soften the rejection, hopefully I've given you some ideas on how to do that. All right. If you liked this episode, make sure you don't miss any of the future ones. Subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. And next week, listen in as I explain 2 powerful productivity tips that I learned from 2 super fast, successful writers. Until next week, remember, master your minutes to master your life.